8 Steps to Happiness Part 3. Step 5. Imagining worst situations. Among the most beneficial means that eliminate anxiety, colic and sorrow, hammam, of a person overcome by trials and calamities, is for him to struggle to lighten its difficulties by imagining the worst possible thing that could happen. This means he is able to weigh and predict worst possible scenarios and outcomes and then being prepared to face them. He builds strategies able to better position himself to minimize risks as much as possible. With preparedness and stratagem, he will unlock the mental block and deal with sadness and loss by the very attempt to reach out for goodness and reject pathways of harm. When one is stricken with fear or illnesses, a scam, or poverty, fakr and deprivation, ADM, of what he likes and covets, let him receive these afflictions with tranquility, tamaniyah, and dedication, taught in resisting the worst that these afflictions could bring. Thus, one combines the qualities of determination and tireless efforts that keep him engaged rather than feeling anxiety on account of the afflictions that struck him. Even if the challenges are great, his strong determination will ease the burden of his mind and ease his pain, preoccupied with navigating outcomes according to his ability. Within him emerges an impressing etiquette and a steady soul diverting attention away from negativity. Seeking also to renew strength, Taqwa, to face challenges while relying, timid, on Allah, convinced of his assistance and hoping for reward. There is no doubt that these approaches have a huge role in achieving happiness, and peace of mind, inshallah al-sudur. It can be witnessed and tested and many people have experienced it, and whoever tastes it knows it. Step 6. Firmness of the heart and reliance on Allah. Among the greatest cures, heart and nervous and mental disorders, and even other illnesses of the body, is related to the firmness of the heart, qalb, and its strength. They are not drowned or affected by illusions and imaginations that come from negative, evil thoughts, itar al-sayyah. For when man gets caught lusting over desires and fantasies, he will become a target of affliction that includes anxiety, depression, physical pain and stress. His heart will be affected by disorders like hunger, ghadab, panic, tashwish, disturbance and prejudice upon appearance of bad things and the loss of good things. Section 1. Reliance upon Allah. When the heart relies and depends on Allah and isn't surrendered to illusions and does not let evil imaginations get the better of him, and puts his trust in Allah, and remains convinced of Allah's grace and good expectation, sorrows and anxieties and various malaise disappear, with the heart gaining strength, relief and happiness that are beyond expression. How many hospitals are filled with sick people suffering from mental illusions, awam, and evil imaginations, khayalat al-fasida. How many strong people have these things shatter their hearts, let alone of weaker ones? The only one exempted is Theon whom Allah has given well-being, and guided him to struggle with his self, jihad al-nafs, in acquiring useful and beneficial means of strengthening the heart, nifir al-makiyal il-qalb, and warding off worries, dafir al-kalik. From it, as Allah, the Most High, said, and whoever puts his trusts on Allah, sufficient is Allah for him. Al-Talaq, 65:3. Meaning that Allah is sufficient for him in all that worries him concerning his religious and worldly necessities. A person mutawakkil, who puts his trust in Allah is strong-hearted, quick-and unfazed by prejudice, nor disturbed by fluidity of developing events because he understands it stems from weakness of the soul, daf al-nafs, and unnatural fear, khawf. He also knows that Allah has guaranteed the one who puts his trust in him to suffice him completely, so he is confident in Allah, and he feels assured of the promise of Allah. As a result of having his losses reversed, sorrow and restlessness removed, and his difficulties replaced by ease, and his sadness by happiness, and his fear by peace and security. We ask Allah to give us well-being, afiyah, and exemption from adversities, and to grant us strength of heart and its firmness in having true confidence in Allah, by which He guarantees those who have its provision of all good and removal of all harm and evil. Let us ask Allah for health and that He grants us the gift of strength and steadfastness with perfect reliance, tawakkul, which Allah has guaranteed the person who put his trust in Him, with all types of goodness and keeps him away from every evil. Step 7. Repelling evil with good. There are 2 important lessons to learn from the words of the Prophet. Let not a believing man, husband, hate a believing woman, wife, for if he dislikes one of her characteristics he will be pleased with another. Muslim, 2-1091 and Ahmad, 2-329 on the authority of Abu Hurairah. Firstly, it provides guidance in regards to dealing with one's wife, close relatives, friends, colleagues and anyone who is connected or has something to do with you. You should realize that everyone has a disagreeable trait, a disadvantage or something you do not like. In this case, compare the individual's shortcoming with your duty of care in maintaining relationships and showing affection. This can be done by remembering all of their goodness and well intentions, and by overlooking their faults and recalling kindness. Friendships and relationships will last the test of time and manifest comfort. Secondly, continued sincerity and being ever ready to fulfill the obligatory rights and voluntary rights as shown by the prophetic guidance in creating harmony between two disputing parties. This can only result in doing away with any grief and sadness. Whoever does not understand and put into practice what the Prophet taught and acts contrary by focusing on the negative side of people and forgetting the good, will inevitably be panic-stricken. This will in turn lead to relationships becoming sour and murky, making dormant the obligations to keep each other connected. Section 1. High aspirations, him, and inner energy. Many people with high aspirations, him, and inner energy are able to prepare themselves to deal with heavy calamities and adversities with patience, sabr, and tranquility, tatmanya. But when they are faced with small and trivial issues, they become worried and anxious, and their hearts lose clarity of thought and become clouded. The reason for this is their ability to control themselves in major events and unable to do so in minor things because they're easily annoyed by finer details they observe and thus upset their balance of comfort. A person who is able to handle himself has a person whose actions are firmly directed, disciplined in every way, not wishy-washy, half-hearted and unreliable, during both major and minor situations, has a deeper connection with his Creator and seeks succor in him. He asks Allah not to forsake him or surrender his affairs to himself even for a moment. This is the key to him being at ease in both ends of a situation. He will become more calmer and his heart will be at peace. Step 8. Enjoying moments of happiness. The intelligent person knows that his real life is the life he lives in happiness, sadab, and tranquility, tamaniya, and that it is very short indeed. Therefore, it is not wise to shorten it further with sorrow and let it drift away with turmoil, as this goes against a truly lived life. He will feel a massive loss when most of his life is lost in vain due to sadness and pessimism. In this case, all types of people are similar, but the believer holds more value in applying this principle because of aforementioned reasons. When he is overridden with anguish or afraid of a looming disaster, he is prompt in comparing between the favors he has gained with whatever has befallen him. At that moment he realizes the greater amount of favors he has, and how often he is kept away from many other troubles and calamities. He likewise weighs between any fear of looming danger with much hope and possibilities to overcome and survive them. Thus, he does not allow smaller possibilities defeat stronger possibilities. He estimates the worst of risks and prepares himself for any eventuality, while simultaneously trying to reduce or replace the risk altogether. Included among the helpful means is recognizing interference from other people against oneself, especially with bad speech, will not hurt you but hurt them. It can only hurt you if you become absorbed thinking about it and letting it control your feelings. If you are oblivious to it, you will not be harmed by it. When something unpleasant happens to him, or he is afraid that it will happen to him, he should remember the other blessings of Allah on him in his religion and worldly life, and compare them with the unpleasant thing. If he does that, he will realize how abundant are the blessings of Allah on him, and how insignificant are the troubles that befell him. Section 1. Expecting Allah's response. Among the most useful ways to drive away grief is to train yourself not to desire thanks and gratitude from anyone except Allah alone. So if you are gracious to someone who has a right over you or not, then know this is by way of your dutiful interaction with Allah. Hence, do not care about any praise, reward or thanks from people who receive your kindness. As Allah said about the attitude of the chosen people among his creation, they say, we feed you for the sake of Allah alone. No reward do we desire from you, nor thanks. Al-Insan, 71:9. This is highly emphasized regarding family, children and people whom have strong bonds of relationship with you. As you become mindful to distance away any harm from them, that's when you feel good about yourself and invite tranquility and joy. Section 2. Taking lessons from calamities. Among the means leading to happiness is learning those things that are ennobling, and then setting out to put them into motion, without needing to force oneself to do so in order to prevent the soul from distress. It is part of wisdom that you extract something good even from what is seemingly bad. This will inevitably bring pleasure and distance turbidity. Take all that is useful and try to utilize it for your benefit, and avoid useless things that may cause harm and anxiety. Stay composed and focused on tasks deemed more important. Section 3. Prioritize importance tasks. Among the things that bring about satisfaction is executing a job well, with immediacy and with perfection, and then following it up with the next task to similar high standard. This will naturally be gratifying, for if work is left incomplete it not only piles up but also leads to discomfort and ache as you play catch-up. If you complete every job in a timely manner, you are then relieved to face tomorrow's business with maximum effect and effort. It is crucial that you sort out and manage the most important tasks first, while making a distinction between what you enjoy and what you prefer. It is prudent to vary between tasks to ensure they do not become tedious, chaotic, or bring boredom. Consider options with a clear mind and consult people whom are worthy to be consulted. People who are conscientious and deliberate will not regret their decisions. Learn what you need to perform in detail. If you are sure about the benefits and made a determined choice, then rely upon Allah, because Allah loves those who place their full confidence in Him. This concludes our short treatise, and we beseech Allah to rectify the affairs of those who are sincere in seeking His aid. Praise be to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, and may peace and blessing be upon our Master Muhammad, his family and companions. Appendix 1. Patience and Victory. The Messenger of Allah said, and that victory comes with patience. This statement is in full accord with the sayings of Allah, Most High. You who have faith, when you meet a troop, stand firm and remember Allah repeatedly, so that hopefully you will be successful. Al-Anfal 8:45. If there are 20 of you who are patient, they will overcome 200, and if there are 100 of you, they will overcome 1,000 of those who disbelieve. Al-Anfal 8:65. He said, concerning the story of Talut, then when he and those who had faith with him had crossed it, they said, we do not have the strength to face Goliath and his troops today. But those who were sure that they were going to meet Allah said, how many a small force has triumphed over a much greater one by Allah's permission. Allah is with the patient. Al-Baqarah 2:249. Allah, Most High, says, yes indeed, but if you are patient and have taqwa and they come upon you suddenly, your Lord will reinforce. Al-Imran 3:125. There are many more verses and a hadith concerning being patient when meeting the enemy. Umar asked the elders of Banu Abbas, what tool do you fight people with? They replied, with patience. We have never fought a people except that we were patient and steadfast like they were patient and steadfast. One of the Salaf said, all of us dislike death and the pain of injury, however we attain varying degrees through patience. Battle was asked about courage, to which he replied, patience for an hour. All this pertains to fighting the external enemy, fighting the disbelievers, but the same applies to fighting the internal enemy, fighting the lower self and base desires. Indeed, fighting these is one of the greatest forms of jihad. The Prophet said, the Mujahid is one who strives against his soul for the sake of Allah. Ahmad number 23951, Tirmidhi number 1261 on the authority of Fadila. Abdullah ibn Alma replied to a person who asked about jihad by saying, start with yourself and strive against it. Start with yourself and start a campaign against it. It is reported on the authority of Jabir, with a da'if isnad, that the Prophet said to a people who had returned from battle, you have returned from the lesser jihad to the greater jihad. It was asked, what is the greater jihad? He replied, the servants. Striving against his base desires. Bayhaqi, Al-Zud al-Kabir number 373, and he said that the isnad contains weakness. When Abu Bakr Siddiq appointed Umar, radiyallahu anhu, as Khalifa, he advised him, the first thing you have to beware of is yourself inside of you. It is reported in the hadith of Sa'd ibn Sinan on the authority of Anas, radiyallahu anhu, and in the Mursal hadith of Malik al-Ashjar, that the Prophet said, your enemy is not that person who, if he kills you, guarantees your entry in paradise, or if you kill him, he will be a light for you. Your worst enemy is yourself inside you. Tabarani, Al-Kabir number 3445 from Abu Malik al-Ashari, and it was ruled da'if by al-Bani, da'if al-Targhib number 1890. The poet, Abbas ibn al-Onaf, encapsulated this meaning in a poem. My heart calls me to what will harm me, increasing my sorrow and my pain. How can I guard against my enemy when the enemy resides inside me? This jihad also requires patience. Whoever steadfastly strives against his self, his desires and his shaitan will achieve victory. Whoever, on the other hand, despairs and gives up patience will be overcome, defeated and imprisoned. He will become subjugated and mean, imprisoned by his shaitan and his desires. It is said, if a person does not defeat his desires, they will render the noble ignoble. Another said, perhaps a stranger is imprisoned by passion, yet in the face of patience it dissipates. A person beset with lusts is a slave, but if he subdues them, he is a king. Ibn al-Mubarak said, whoever is patient will end up finding little requiring patience. Whoever despairs will find little to take pleasure in. Bukhari and Muslim record that the Prophet said, "The strong person is not a person who rests, but the strong person is a person who can control himself when angry." Bukhari number 6114, Muslim number 2608 on the authority of Abu Hurairah. A person describes Onof ibn Qais with the words, "He had a complete mastery over himself when angry." A person remarked to one of them, "So and so can walk on water." He replied, "If Allah grants a person the ability to oppose his desires, such a one is stronger than the person who can walk on water. Know that yourself is like an animal. If it knows that you are firm and resolute, it will not waver, but if it knows that you are lazy and irresolute, it will take advantage and hanker after its wants and pursue its lusts." Abu Sulaiman al-Durrani would say, "While in Iraq, I was in charge of upkeeping the palaces, the vessels, clothes and food of the princes, and my soul did not want any of them. Then I was put in charge of dates and my soul almost fell upon them." This was mentioned to one of the Gnostics who said, he had no hope of attaining the first, so his lusts did not hanker after them. But he did want the second, so they did hanker after them. "Steadfastly I avoided delights till they vanished. I forced my soul to forego them. They remained absent." The soul goes where a person directs. If it sees an opportunity, it hankers after it, otherwise not. For many a day myself gained ascendancy. Yet when it saw my resolve, at humility, it submitted. Therefore, his saying, "and that victory comes with patience," subsumes patience and steadfastness in striving against both the external and internal enemy. The Salaf would view this latter patience, patiently striving against the self and desires, to be better than patience in the face of tribulation. Maimon ibn Mihran said, "Patience is of two categories. Patience when encountering calamity, which is good, and patience in avoiding sins, which is better." Sa'id ibn Jubayr said, "Patience is of two types. The best form is patience in avoiding what Allah has prescribed and doing those acts of worship that He has made obligatory, and patience when facing calamity." A hadith having this meaning is reported from the Prophet on the authority of all, but it is not authentic. Ibn Abi al-Dunya, al-Sayyib number 24 with the words, "Patience is of three types: patience when encountering calamity, patience in obedience, and patience in avoiding sin."